Hey, everybody, and welcome to the TGIF edition of Winners and Winers Radio. I am your Friday host, Scott Steen, lead handicapper at winnersandwiners.com, joined as I always am each and every day by my partner and co-host. He is the senior handicapper at Winners and Winers, and he is Scott Reichel. Scott, you dodging the hurricane up there okay, buddy?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Actually, pretty peaceful night. Didn't lose power. Had a friend over. Ended up watching the NBA Finals. Pretty chill night.
Pretty exciting stuff. I know you cashed some tickets on the NBA. That was good. That was a good thing, right?
Shout out to Brook Lopez. I had the under in his point total, and whatever number he got, it was too high.
What do you have, 9, 11? What do you have?
He had 8.
8. That's right.
The number I got was 13.5. It dropped to 12.5. I don't know if there are any 11s out there, but maybe if you ended up getting some alternative totals, which you can probably find, if you had the under, you probably cashed.
Yep, you were in good shape. You know, and it didn't exactly work out the way you thought. Lopez played more minutes, but he just was not a factor at all.
I think it was actually kind of funny because I did it solely because I thought they would stop playing him, and he was arguably the second best player on the entire team yesterday.
Boy, that says a lot, doesn't it?
It does. That's why they lost.
You think his hands are sore from clapping for Giannis? As Giannis put up 2 more points?
I think that's why his brother doesn't play more. His brother's always clapping every time Giannis touches the ball.
Robin and Brooke.
I didn't mean Robin. I meant Thanasis. The other Antetokounmpo.
Oh,
He never plays because he's constantly clapping his hands. They're probably sore all the time.
Well, he had a very valuable role the other day as he was able to help his brother off the court.
He had a big role in yesterday's game. He gave Giannis a hug at some point in the second quarter.
Well, it must have imparted some pretty good mojo to him. What did Giannis have in the third quarter? 28?
He had 20.
Just 20?
He had 20.
I thought he had more than that.
He had 42 in the game, but he had 20 in the third quarter.
Yeah, okay. All right. Still a pretty good performance.
If he had 28, they still would have lost. Would have been closer, but they would have lost.
Yeah, very true. Very true. All right, bud. Well, we got a lot to get to today. We got a couple of things that we're going to talk about today that we haven't touched on much in the past, Scott. So I know you're excited about that.
New segment.
But before we get to our new segment, we want to remind everybody, of course, that this is Winners and Winers Radio. Winners and Winers Radio, give us an hour and we'll give you the winners. We are going to be doing nothing but dealing winners today. So stay tuned for that. Of course, stay tuned for our Bet the Farm play later on in the show. Don't want to miss that. But, of course, we are the show Winners and Winers Radio. And we are, of course, brought to you by, this is going to be a big surprise to everybody, we're brought to you by winnersandwiners.com. Winnersandwiners.com is the #1 site in the world for predictive sports analysis. Each day, they put up full previews and predictions of every game going on in North America. Every single day, 365 days a year, Scott, they do it. It's a hardworking staff that we have over there at Winners and Winers. I know you're a part of it, so keep up the great work because it is a great site, and it is absolutely free. So make sure you stop by and check out winnersandwiners.com before you make your next bet. All right, Scott. Well, we got to do it. We got to talk about the good news. We got to talk about the bad news. You know, it's Friday. We shouldn't have much bad news, but it doesn't really matter because the bad beats, they keep on coming, Scott. If you had that ticket in your hand, you thought you had a winner, but you didn't. Only thing you can do, my friend, is call the cops. All right. Well, we are going to take a look, Scott, first in the world of baseball. If you had the Reds to score first against the Brewers, you were in great shape. They loaded up the bases in the first inning. No outs. What could possibly go wrong, Scott? Oh, wait. Strikeout, line out. Brewers, they don't score a lot, but they did today. They scored 1 in the bottom of the first inning. And that, my friend, was the old ball game. If you had the Reds to score first against the Brewers, you had a good play, just didn't work out. All you can do is call the cops.
And the second one was in baseball as well. If you had the Nationals on the money line, you were in very good shape early. Nationals were up 8-0 in the top of the fourth. And then suddenly, the Padres scored 7 runs in the bottom of the fourth, including a grand slam home run by a relief pitcher against Max Scherzer. A grand slam from a guy who just got called up from AAA the other day, or if not today. Grand slam against Max Scherzer, And then the Nationals, when that happened, you knew at that point you were probably in trouble. And the Nationals ended up completing the choke job, blew an 8-run lead, and lost 9-8. So if you had the Nationals on the money line, that is probably the worst beat of the night, and it's not even close.
Nope, not even close at all. And finally, if you had the Dodgers Marlins over 7.5, you're in great shape, Scott. Marlins, they've been playing a lot of games under. I know there's a lot of people looking at the under in that one, but if you had the over, you were getting ready to send "I told you so" text to everybody that you know, because they scored 7 runs in the first 5 innings. All they need is one more run, Scott. Well, you know what segment this game is on, and you know what happened. 4 innings, no more runs. The game ends up 6-1. If you had over 7.5 in the Dodgers Marlins, it wasn't as bad as the Nationals beat, but it wasn't a good one. You got robbed, and you should call the cops.
Well, I guess in the defense of the actual bettors is that if you have 4 innings to work with for one more run, that's basically 2 more innings, because the Marlins can't hit. So you really just have to worry about the Dodgers, right?
All right. Yep. The Marlins, man, when they go in the deep freeze offensively, they don't mess around at all.
They occasionally will score 9 runs or so in one game, and then for a week straight, they're not scoring more than 2.
They're just bizarre. When we capped them last week, earlier this week, they had a set where they'd scored 11 runs in 3 separate games in about their 12-game stretch. And other than that, they hadn't scored more than 3.
Yep.
They're a true feast or famine team. So the other side of the coin, Scott, for those that didn't have a bad beat, it's the good wins. It's the nice, easy wins, those ones where you have that winning ticket. You know it's a winner from the first quarter on, the first inning on. It looks good, and it only gets better. No shenanigans, no unexpected beats. You were sitting in the rocking chair.
So the first one was in the NBA. However, we're going to be looking at a player prop. If you had PJ Tucker over 4.5 points, you really did not have to watch much of the game, because he scored 8 points in the first 7 minutes. If you had over 4.5, it's pretty easy because it was just a wrap at that point. And yeah, it didn't get much better for Milwaukee, but it didn't need to, because you already won your bet.
Yep, absolutely. Isn't that what counts?
It is for some people.
It is for everybody on this show and everybody that listens to this show. Yeah, that's pretty much the way that my favorite team is whoever I've got a bet on that day. Scott, you had the Phillies money line against the Cubs. You're in pretty good shape. Led 2-0 after 3rd inning. Led 4-0 after the 5th inning. They didn't stop there. They kept shoveling on the coal onto the fire. They led 8-0 after 7. They finally said, you know what, that's probably going to be enough. Cubs did not score, and the Phillies go on to win 8-0. If you had Phillies on the money line, that was a rocking chair victory.
Well, first of all, I realized I misspoke. Tucker had 7 points in the first 8 minutes. Sorry, whatever. It still went over.
8 in the first 7?
I said 8 in the first 7. Whatever. Doesn't matter.
Somebody's
Anyway, if you had the Mariners on the money line in some daytime baseball at plus 125 taking on the Yankees, you were in for a really, really sweat-free win, because they led 3-0 after the 2nd inning. And the Yankees, after going off offensively for the last 2 games, had 1 hit for the entire game. And they ended up losing 4-0. So if you had the Mariners and you're up 3 runs, 2 innings in, and the other team can't get a hit, odds are you're going to win. And yes, they won 4-0.
Well, you can't stop Logan Gilbert. You can only
Gilbert is on fire.
You hope to contain him, Scott.
Yep.
That's just sad. So Montgomery pitched okay, but didn't really matter, did it?
No, it did not.
All right, so there is a lot going on, Scott, and we have talked about the Olympics a little bit. Japan, in a move that really shouldn't shock anybody, announced yesterday that there will be no fans at the Olympics due to the COVID spike. They were talking a couple of weeks ago about putting 50% in some venues, no more than 10,000. That's all scrapped. A couple of athletes have already started to pull out. Scott, do you think that is a trend that continues? And bigger question, just a couple of weeks before the Olympics get underway, is there any chance it gets canceled?
I think it's going to be an absolute disaster. Do I think it's going to get canceled? No. I think that Japan's too far along. I think that if you try to cancel it again, it's a complete disaster, because you're going to have to try again for the 3rd straight year. I think they'll keep it I do think more athletes will drop out. You mentioned a couple have already dropped out. For example, you had tennis player Nick Kyrgios, who ended up withdrawing from Wimbledon due to an injury, but he stated on Instagram yesterday that he was withdrawing because of the fact that there are going to be no fans, and he felt that with no fans, there was really no point in just showing up to play in an empty arena. The injury also doesn't help, but that's just one example of a guy who decided to step down from playing because of the lack of fans. So you might see more of that in the future. I think you will. Now, I'm not exactly sure when it comes to other countries what percentage of the athletes are vaccinated. So I'm not sure what exactly the risk is for some countries compared to others when it comes to a COVID outbreak. But would I be surprised if more athletes or even countries just decide to withhold athletes because of some potential fear from it? And that's definitely possible. So do I think it's going to happen more with athletes dropping out? Yes, I think you will see, I don't want to say DEFCON 1 situation, but I'll go DEFCON 2. It's definitely not good. What do you think?
Agreed. No, and I first of all, I agree with what you said about the canceling of the Olympics. They are definitely too far along. I think I read, Scott, Japan stands to lose somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 billion due to broadcast rights.
Does that include the amount they lost last year having to push it off, or no?
No, that is just strictly on the broadcast rights.
Okay.
If for some reason they cancel it again and they don't get to broadcast it, if they just scrap the Olympics, let's say.
And I'm sure they've already lost a decent amount of money from having to scrap it from last year entirely.
Oh yeah, and the Olympics it's a money loser anyway. I know their new stadium they built cost $1.2 billion that they're going to have just for the opening and closing ceremonies. You know, they could have done them at a field.
They could have done a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, there's going to be nobody there. So
the only thing I know is that, do I think they're going to push it back for a third time's the charm? No. They're already way too deep. They're going to keep it going no matter what. But
yes.
Do I think other athletes will consider withdrawing as well? Yes. I think you'll see a decent amount withdraw.
And I do
Team
think
USA even had a couple of cases potentially going on. I
believe
on the basketball team.
I do think that, well, it was on like their, what did they call it? Their premier team, or it's like their second string team, the one
select team.
The select team, that's right.
So they've had a couple of issues there.
Like the Washington Generals to the Dream Team.
Yeah, but the point is, in either way, I think we would agree that it's going to get better. It's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yes, I totally agree. I do also agree. I think there will be at least a couple of countries that just say, no, we're not sending anybody.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
You've got a low vaccination rate. Of course, Japan is pretty low. They really put a push on. They got up to 15% of people who had at least one shot. So it's not going to be good, Scott.
Nope.
It's just not going to be good. Speaking of opting out, Correa and Altuve apparently worried about the outbreak over there in Japan because they're not going to the All-Star game. They're playing it safe.
Yeah.
Correa
not quite, but the actual news was correct.
Yes, Correa is going to be sitting out because his wife is pregnant with their first child. Altuve allegedly has a leg injury, although it hasn't seemed to stop him from playing.
He also hit a 3-run home run 2 days ago, but whatever.
So we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but now we've had some more defections. Is this getting to be a big deal because some of the best players in the league just refuse to show up, just aren't going to do it?
I don't understand the Correa one. His wife's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
She's due in November.
She's due in November?
She's due in November. What am I missing?
Well, you're not missing the birth if it's in November because
that's why I was lost.
Baseball.
It's one thing if she was about to give birth and it's like, okay, you don't want to have to fly back. And, that happened with John Rahm and how he was worried about missing a golf tournament. He was going to miss it anyway for the birth of his child. She's not due for another handful of months. I don't really know if that's a solid excuse or not, but you could just say you don't want to go. That's also an option. Altuve could easily play because he's been playing every day, and now he decides, you know what, my team needs me. I'll sit for another couple days, which isn't a good excuse either, but that's kind of what DeGrom used as his excuse. So we mentioned it yesterday. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the same point, but I thought it was worth mentioning because we talked about DeGrom and how he might cause other athletes or other players to follow suit and to immediately follow it after. Do you think they would have been so forward skipping the All-Star game if DeGrom didn't do it first?
No. No, I don't, because this is a pretty late date for the All-Star game for decisions to be made. I mean, this is Friday already. They're going to play it on Tuesday. So you're talking about 4 days away. No, I think if they were going to actually make this decision from a real decision standpoint, they would have made it a couple weeks ago.
I agree. So I think that it's pretty interesting. I know some people might be wondering, well, how could they have done it a few weeks ago if you didn't know they're going to make? I'm sure Altuve knew he was making the team. DeGrom knew he was going to make the team.
Sure.
Yeah. So you could have just said advance, like, I appreciate the invitation. I'm not going. So I do think that DeGrom kind of opened up the Pandora's box on some other players potentially skipping. But once again, we talked about if Manfred should do anything. He hasn't really done anything about anything up to this point, or anything productive in pretty much any issues in the sport. But do you think at some point he's going to stop players from deciding to skip All-Star games, or is that just out of his jurisdiction? You just think you got to let the players do whatever they want?
Can't do it. You can't. I mean, you could say if you're selected, you have to go unless you have an injury. Well, guess what? There's going to be
fake injuries.
An outbreak of injuries. Yep. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I don't know do you have an answer? Do you have you're roasting Manfred pretty good for not doing anything? Well, let's put your commissioner hat on for a day. What do you do?
I think you could pay him.
Well, they do pay him.
You pay him for what? Making the All-Star team or actually being at the game?
You get him. You pay him a share. They get a loser's share and a winner's share.
Then I think they should make a specific. I don't know if they would actually be able to do it, but I do think you should only get that share if you show up.
I think that's the way it goes. But
like if you forego going, then you forego the salary.
If I'm not mistaken, I think the share is around like 25 for losers and 50 for winners.
So what happens to the other 25?
What's that?
You said 50 and 25.
Yeah, 50 for the winners, 25 for the losers.
Okay.
Are you what am I not
talking about the All-Star game?
Yeah.
I'm saying if there's 50% for the winners and 25%.
No, not 50%. No, 50,000.
Oh, okay. I thought we were going percentages. I got really confused there. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, it's
unless you want to add a stipulation in contracts, how if you make an All-Star team, you get a bonus. Maybe you can only claim the bonus if you actually go to the All-Star game. I don't know how you can enforce that.
See, that's the thing. That's why they didn't announce anything while the voting was still going on.
Yeah.
Because obviously
some of them get bonuses if they make the All-Star team.
Right. Exactly correct. So
that's how I would look around it. If you wanted to try to, it would have to be individual contract language saying in order to claim bonuses for making a team or playing in a home run derby or something, you have to actually go to the event.
Yeah, I don't hate, and that could be the case already. I don't think anybody that doesn't go gets a share.
I'm saying you're talking about a share $25,000. I'm sure DeGrom's making a lot more than $25,000.
That's the thing. It's not enough money.
It's like finding an athlete for comments. You find him $25,000. That's great. He makes that every 10 seconds?
Basically, yeah.
So there's no point. I think that if you want to punish people for not doing it, it should be involved in the actual bonuses that they have in their individual contracts.
Oh, this is okay. So this is even worse. Okay, so I'm looking through here as we're speaking. The winning team, and the last one we have info for was 2017. So the winning team got 20,000. The losing team got nada.
Fantastic.
Zip Orini, buddy. So,
I don't think they need the money, but the point is that maybe they have more of an incentive to skip if the prizes aren't good enough for winning.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So now you're faced with the prospect of upping the share, spending more money on a game whose ratings are in free fall.
Yeah, which is not going to happen.
No,
which is why I think that my scenario is an option. I'm assuming the players' union would fight it to the death because they don't want to force players to partake in an exhibition game if they don't need to. But I think you can understand where I'm coming from. I
do. It's just all about how much importance you put on the game. I mean, it's, the All-Star game in baseball used to be a big deal. It was must-see TV. Everybody was wearing different uniforms. It was very cool to watch. And now it's on the verge of getting relegated to the same status of not quite as bad as the Pro Bowl, But somewhere along the lines of the NBA All-Star Game or the
The
NHL.
NHL All-Star Game, people don't care about either, but the NBA All-Star Game, of course, is the pinnacle of exhibition games.
Right.
But they also make a whole weekend out of it. You have a full celebrity game on Friday. You carry it over to Sunday. Baseball just throws their stuff in the middle of the week.
Well, they do the futures game. They do the futures and celebrity on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm curious how many tens of people watch that.
The futures game?
Do you think a lot of people actually watch the futures game?
I would be interested to know that. I would think so, but I don't know. I could be wrong. We went to see the futures game when the All-Star game was here.
I'm just asking, do you think it's better to have the All-Star game and the whole weekend on a weekend, or do you think it's better during the week?
Obviously your ratings would probably be better for a Saturday night game or something like that.
I'm assuming so, but it might just be the nature of the sport itself, where baseball has a massive disadvantage in comparison to basketball for attendance.
It could be. That could absolutely be the case, because there's really no way it can work you could make it work for the weekend, but you're going to end up missing more days. So
yeah,
I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to the game. I'm still a sucker. I still look forward to watching the game. So regardless of who sits, I'll be watching.
I did read somewhere that the game is more entertaining if you have money on. Did you hear that somewhere?
That's always my line when somebody says, "Yeah, baseball is boring." Like, well, you're just not betting enough.
Yep.
Because I guarantee you, there were people watching that Nationals game that it wasn't boring at all.
Mm-hmm.
San Diego ended up walking that one off. So, Scott, speaking of underachieving baseball teams, Marlins are going to bring back Donnie Baseball next year to manage the team. They're 38-48 right now. Man, you can see they want to lock him up because somebody might poach him. They did make the playoffs last year, Scott, in the 60-game season, so small asterisk there. But is this the right decision? Is this team headed in the right direction? And is the timing suspect? Why do you announce it now? What are we doing?
That was the main takeaway that I had. Am I surprised they brought Donnie Baseball back? No. They made the playoffs last year. Yes, it wasn't expanded, whatever, but they did beat the Cubs, so they did win a playoff series technically. So a team that was expected to be in the basement ended up having a Cinderella run, and I'll give Mattingly props for that. This year, they might not have a good record, but the run differential's huge. No, but in reality, this team is headed in the right direction because of the fact that they have a lot of young talent. And you can make an argument that this team should be better. I think Sixto Sanchez not pitching definitely hurt, even though the rotation was already good enough. Sixto's a very solid pitcher as well, and he ended up never fully making the trip because he got injured. And
the rest of those guys just have the regular number of toes, so they can only be so good.
Mm-hmm. But he's got the extra one. Apparently.
It's 6 toes.
Yeah, but anyway, looking at the actual lineup, the team can't hit.
Oh,
but I do think it's the right move because you got to wonder, in addition to firing a manager, you have to wonder who's going to replace him. You think high-profile managers want to sprint to coach Miami?
I don't know. It depends on if they've watched those pitchers.
I was going to say, the weather is good. The lineup's not very good. But I think Mattingly's done a pretty good job with that team. Do you?
Yes, I agree. I don't know who else you bring in at this point. I mean, they have the pitching to be a playoff team right now.
Yeah, the hitting is the main problem that they have, obviously.
Yep. And you can tell how bad the hitting is because they're still mired in first place or in last place, in spite of having one of the best pitching staffs. I think they certainly have the best pitching staff in the NL East.
Well, because you've talked about the Mets, you got DeGrom,
right?
Stroman's been pretty good, and then it kind of falls off a cliff after that.
Yeah, that's the thing. In Miami's, they've really got 3 pitchers that have been consistent all year, and then they've got the kid that's going tonight who's been good so far. So I got a soft spot for this Miami team. I have to admit,
for everyone roasting Jeter and whatever he was doing a couple of years ago with trading Yelich and trading everybody, it's not as bad as people thought it was going to be.
No,
this team has shown signs of growth, which means a lot. Now, of course, you need some other hitters to develop. Chisholm has been okay. I forgot how to pronounce that. It's Chisholm. Yeah. So Jazz has been pretty good. But other than that, they don't really have much. And I don't know how many free agents you can actually acquire. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to blame the manager for the team struggling. I do think that the timing is weird. Like, you're afraid Mattingly's going to leave mid-season. Like, I don't really get why you wouldn't do it before the season when you made the playoffs, or why you wouldn't do it when the season's over.
You think the
'Cause your
Twins?
team
Think the Twins management sitting up there going, "Damn it!"
I was going to say, like, you could crater in the second half. You're still going to bring him back.
Yeah.
So I don't really know why it matters unless Mattingly demanded to know the future and he decided, I'm not going to play hardball. Here's your money. And that's what happened? You think Mattingly just went to the All-Star break and said, I need more financial security? And they're just said, fine. We know we're not getting rid of you.
Maybe something like that.
I can see that happening.
It could be that he wanted to get a more definitive answer about next year.
You want a definitive answer? Take your money. You're coming back next year. Take it.
Oh, man. And how long do you think until the Marlins can actually win that division?
It's the NL East next year. I mean, I don't know what you want me to tell you. You don't know what any team's going to do in that division ever. DeGrom being around the Mets helps, but he also had a losing record, or the team had a losing record in starts for the past 3 years. So Even if you have a great pitcher, the Mets can't really hit either. The Nationals have some serious problems in the future because of Strasburg's contract, and Scherzer might get shipped off, and they got issues there. The Phillies are really loving that Harper contract because they really can't pitch. And other than that, you're looking at the division, and the Braves are supposed to be good. The Braves should dominate the division for the next couple of years, but they've underachieved. So in the NL East, anything can happen. And I think Miami could win division if the lineup has some type of resurgence through even just 4 months of a season. That might be enough to get them over the hump, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree. I'd like to see what their farm system looks like. If they've got any hitters on the way up, that'd be nice to know if there's help on the way, or if they're going to have to again deal some more of their pitch. I mean, with the trades they made, Scott, getting rid of Yelich, getting rid of Stanton, getting rid of Caleb Smith. I mean, Ozuna. Who am I missing? Anybody? I'm sure I am.
I mean, they got rid of Logan Morrison a long time ago.
Jeff Conine, they got rid of him.
Way back.
But I mean, they should be stockpiling some pretty good players, some pretty good draft picks, right?
That's the thing I'll give Miami props for, because their player development seems to be one of the better ones in the league.
Agreed. They, as certainly from a pitching standpoint, they just churn out good arms, man.
They do.
So, yep, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Big fan of Miami, but for right now, I like them as an under team.
If you could do a future bet, but like a dynasty league in fantasy football, the Marlins aren't a bad choice, because a couple years down the road, they might be very good.
Yep, absolutely true. I think Miami, didn't they give one of their draft picks to the Dolphins? Because they got a lot of number one picks.
Dolphins got all the picks in the world, but
all the picks in the world. All right, Scott. So, a little basketball last night. Looked a lot like the first game. Giannis scored more. The rest of the team scored less. Is that Max Giannis right there? Can he do any more?
I don't know what more you want from the guy.
Right.
You're looking at the numbers here when he's basically on one knee, and he got injured several times during the game, or he re-aggravated, however you want to phrase it. Either way, 15 of 22, even from the foul line, 11 for 18, not bad for Giannis. Not bad. 42 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 blocks. I don't really know what more you want him to do. What is he supposed to do?
Sell popcorn at halftime? I mean, that's really about it.
I don't know.
No, go.
I was going to say, sorry, but when you have, I know that Bryant only played less than a minute, but when you have 9 guys on your team play at least 1 minute, and you're the only player with a plus and a plus minus category, the other 8 are negatives, you got to blame the teammates.
Yeah.
There's not really much else to add. He goes to the bench and the whole team falls apart.
Yeah, you got to get him some rest. You've got to get him a little bit of a blow on that knee, and that didn't happen. You said he played, 41?
He played 40 minutes, so I am very curious what the splits were whenever he was on the bench. But I'll guarantee you Milwaukee got outscored.
I was going to say they weren't good, judging by the plus-minus for everybody else. they had to be pretty darn bad.
Yep.
So anything go different going back to Milwaukee, Scott? Is that enough to put it over the hump?
Now, Milwaukee does have a great home court, but at the end of the day, it goes back to what I said after game one. Drew Holiday needs to get it together. Now, Middleton stunk, but he was good in game one, and they still lost. So the piece that's been consistent has been Holiday being terrible, which isn't that surprising if you followed him during the playoffs. But the thing about the Bucks, which I just think it makes them a terrible, I'd say, it's just in a terrible spot or a terrible situation against this Phoenix team, is the fact that besides Giannis, who is not really a great shooter, you got PJ Tucker, who's an okay at best shooter who doesn't create anything off the dribble, Middleton, who's streaky, Lopez, who's pretty good but streaky as well, and Holiday, who is the definition of streaky but also has a bit of a cold right now. Does this team have anybody who can just consistently rely on to hit shots?
No. They have Giannis. That's it.
And you look at the Suns, you have Booker, who can make shots consistently.
You do.
Chris Paul, who can make shots consistently.
I've heard he's good.
Ayton knows his role, so he'll take layups. He wasn't great yesterday, but he did enough.
Yep.
Bridges at times is streaky, but still he's good.
A good streak yesterday.
Same thing with Crowder. And Crowder's not really kind of a guy who's going to create much off the dribble, but he can have games where he gives you double-digit points. The problem that I have is that there's nobody on Milwaukee who, if they have a wide-open jump shot, I'm going to know that, like, oh, there's an 80% chance this goes in. I just don't think they have the matchup, just flexibility that Phoenix has. Now, Phoenix does have a lot of injuries now to the front court, especially the backup front court. So there's a chance Milwaukee could try to adjust. But the issue goes back to Milwaukee that I've said about Budenholzer for a while, which is that this team will play the same style every single game. Doesn't matter what matchup, doesn't matter what advantage they have on the inside. They are going to shoot a bunch of jump shots because that's what they do all the time. What they should do is realize we got Lopez and Giannis, and they have Ayton and an undersized Jay Crowder playing the four. Maybe we should just pound the glass, dominate points in the paint, and maybe just stop shooting so many threes. Isn't that kind of what they should do? Because I don't know how else you're going to beat this team.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what they did tonight, or what they did last night. You know, Giannis goes for 42. So they're pounding the ball inside. He shoots a ton of free throws. I don't know how much more inside they can shoot.
I'm just saying that when you outscore a team 54-28 in the paint, but you go 9 for 31 from the 3-point line, maybe you should take a max of 24 3-pointers. You got to cut down on your 3-point shooting if you have such an edge in the middle. Don't you think?
Well, in a way, but you also have to have the threat of an outside shot to open up the middle.
I'm just trying to come up with some creative ways to fix what the problems with this team, besides the fact that Phoenix is clearly better. Well, the only thing I could think that they could adjust is they realize if we're going to go with two big men on the court at all times, we have to out-rebound, get to the line a lot, and dominate the points in the paint. I still think they're shooting too many threes.
Well, see, and you were guessing that they'd go small for this one.
I thought they would try to.
That Lopez would sit, but no, it's Budenholzer, so he's not going to do that. He's not going to adjust. He's going to put Brook Lopez out there for 28 minutes.
So I'm saying, and Lopez wasn't even bad today, so I'll actually give Lopez a pass. But the point I'm trying to say is if you are going to play Lopez for that many minutes, and he's only going to stand at the 3-point line, and he's not going to really crash the glass that much on the offensive end, you're not going to give him any post-ups against Crowder or anybody, you got to start attacking the rim more. You got to just acknowledge the fact that, yes, Phoenix can go small, and they can torch us in the pick and roll, but we have all the size, and we should win the rebounding battle by about 15 every game. Don't you think that's what they have to do? Just have your advantage against theirs and just see which one's bigger?
Yeah, I'm just not sure they have enough of an advantage inside with Ayton there to give up what they'd have to give up from the outside. I
think you might be right, but they've tried the same strategy 2 games in a row, and it's failed miserably.
Yeah, they've looked like this basically the same game. They win 118-105. They win 118-108 last night.
Yeah, and Giannis at 42.
Or no, they're 123-108. Sorry, in the first game. Sorry.
Point is, either way, it's just a situation where I agree they might have to sacrifice. And don't get me wrong, they might lose game 3 doing what I said. but you have to try something. Because if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to lose. You're not winning 4 out of 6 doing the same exact thing you've been doing for the first 2 games.
Early line on game 3 is Bucks by 2.5 or 3, Scott.
I can't say I'm fully surprised because of the classic desperation game 3 angle where we need to win this one. So we're going to pick Milwaukee. Milwaukee's very good at home.
In fact, it's 3.5 across the board. So you're telling me there's an 8-point difference? Is that what I'm supposed to believe here?
That's what they're telling you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's why it's priced, is because they think Milwaukee's in a must-win situation and they follow the public angle of public's going to slam this, so we got to set it accordingly.
Right. And let's be clear, the odds makers don't necessarily think that, but they think the public will think that.
I think people are going to slam Phoenix. I think Milwaukee will probably close. You said it was 3.5 now?
3.5 across the board.
I'll say it closes at around 1.5 or 2.
3.5 and 222.
If Giannis was healthy, it might stay at 3.5. But since he's already compromised, I got to assume money's going to pour in on Phoenix.
Not on the injury report at all.
I know.
So
even though he injured his knee twice in the middle of the game.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
What do you think? I'm assuming you agree that this line probably closes at around 2.
I'm going to, well, put it this way. I'm going to lock up my 3.5 tonight.
You like the 3.5 or the money line?
You know, that's a good question. If there's a money line up, I'll take it. I don't see Milwaukee. I think they played the best game they could play tonight, Scott. They played the Giannis game tonight, where Giannis takes over the game and dominates. Couldn't pull it off. They played a spread it around game in game 1, where Middleton was able to step up and have some points. Giannis did okay, and some of the bit players pretty much did the best they could. That didn't work. I don't know what the answer is.
I think my advice would be, if you like the Bucks in game 3, take Drew Holiday points over, because if he's awful again in game 3, there's no chance they're winning.
Right. What do you set the number at for Giannis? Like 36.5, 35.5, somewhere in there?
I think they'll probably set it around 33 or 34. It's really tough to price, because what if he gets injured again and they got to pull him for 5 minutes? You don't really know how to price this stuff, which is why rebounding props. I thought about doing that for play the day yesterday with Giannis rebounds, but I was afraid that at some point he would tweak something and suddenly end reports Giannis going to the locker room again. It's like, all right, fantastic. I just lost about 10 minutes of game time. So I decided not to, but I got to assume it'll be around 34.
His rebound props were pretty good, Scott. What was it? 11.5 for Giannis, or 10.5 for Giannis? Right?
It was 10.5 for Giannis, or 11.5, I think, but Ayton was 12.5.
Ayton was 12.5. I thought he was 11.5.
He was 12.5.
All right. So Giannis got there by a half. He had 11. And Ayton missed it by 1.5. He had 11 also.
Yep.
All right. So since we're not doing the show tomorrow, let's go ahead and do a pick here. You and I, as predicted, we split. I had the over, and I thought the Bucks would sneak in. They didn't. It did hit over. And you had the under and Phoenix. And of course, much as you predicted, we absolutely split. So what do we got here?
I'm going to take the points with Phoenix.
Okay.
And I got to go with the over. I think we might actually agree completely on this one.
Yeah, I just don't see this. I don't see this series playing under at all.
I'm trying to figure out what Milwaukee can actually do to try to change the complexion of the series, besides praying that the home crowd advantage is actually worth 8 points. Because right now, Phoenix, I don't want to say they're going to sweep, but they look really, really good right now. Yeah,
they absolutely do. I'll tell you, the play that I've made, and was been premium play the last 2 games, and because I'm not doing premium picks for Sunday, I will share it with everyone. It has been the Phoenix Suns team total over. We had it at 111.5 for the first game, and at 112.5 for the second game. They've hit 118 in both. I was right the first time. 118, 105, and 118, 108 have been the 2 scores. Love the Phoenix team total over. So you're gonna at this point, let's say it closes at -2. So Phoenix is going to be team total over 110. Yeah, I'll take that every time.
Can't really complain. Milwaukee's shown no way of stopping Phoenix so far this series.
No, and Phoenix hasn't had a bad quarter. That's what I look at the quarters. I look to see if if they're having like 3 average quarters and every game they have like 1 monster quarter and that takes it over, or if they're been consistent. And this Phoenix team has been remarkably consistent
I think it's the power of Chris Paul, because he can just evaluate how Milwaukee's guarding in general and say, well, we're either going to go inside or kick it to a bunch of wide open people. And it seems like whatever Milwaukee does, Chris Paul knows where to go with the ball, and you always see a guy wide open.
Yep. Boy, they do. Man, they take some wide open shots. This is a Phoenix team that could have got to the mid 120s if they'd just made a couple of those wide open threes down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They had some fantastic looks. And so, 118 was about the floor in that game. So, and that's the thing that I look at, Scott, of the 8 quarters, they haven't had a quarter less than 56. And, that puts you in great shape right there.
What do you mean, a quarter or a half?
I mean, a quarter, a quarter 26, sorry.
20, you said 56.
I know I did. 26 for a quarter. So that's been their absolute floor, and they've done that just once in each game, and then all the other ones have been more. Most of them have been, there were 30 plus tonight for the other 3.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's you and I are both on the same page here. As a bonus, if you can get the team total over like 110 on the Suns, that's a fantastic play as well. And a quick reminder, everybody, you are listening to Winners and Winers Radio. Give us an hour. We'll give you the winners. We just dealt out a couple. Now we're going to deal out a couple more, Scott. We're going to do a segment. It's going to be a first-time segment here. We've never, ever done this before. We've got a big – can we call it a big MMA card this weekend, Scott?
I think you kind of have to, just because of how many people are going to buy the pay-per-views for it.
Yep. Anytime you got Conor McGregor in there, I think it's going to be a big weekend. So we're going to talk a little bit about the fights.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Don't talk about it, Scott.
I don't even know why we have a segment if we can't talk about it.
Man, we didn't really think that clip through very well, did we? All right, so I know you're the big MMA guy. You're the big UFC guy. I learned a lot about it during the pandemic last year because it's one of the few sports that were going on. So I kind of got a crash course in the UFC, but you are certainly recognized on this show, at least, as the UFC expert. So shall we save the Poirier Conor McGregor prediction till the end? You got a couple other ones that you kind of might slip under the radar that you want to share with the folks?
Yeah, I do. I think one thing to mention, though, is that in addition to the crash course you got in MMA, you got a hell of a crash course in phonics, because you had to make some really, really interesting pronunciations for names.
Yes.
For guys you never heard of. That's
right. And we made a game of it where I wouldn't work on it in advance. Because it's easy to go to YouTube. You can hear people pronounce the name and everything. There's no fun in that. It's always best to have me do a cold read. And my goodness, we had some fun there, didn't we?
We definitely did.
All right. So, by the way, that would have been a weird answer. Like, Scott, do you have some under the radar plays you want to share with everybody? And you're like, yeah, no, not really.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you got, Scott?
So I'm going to look at the prelim card first, and there's one matchup I like in particular. You have Ryan Hall taking on Poirier. Now, Poirier is undefeated, Spanish fighter, very solid. He is 10-0 with 7 wins by submission. He has fought in the UFC twice, one by decision and one by knockout, and he's now facing Ryan Hall, who has been kind of off the radar for the last couple of years. He's 36 years old, 8-1 overall, been in the UFC for a while, undefeated in the UFC. However, he has not fought since 2019, and people might be wondering why.
Why,
and the
Scott?
main reason is because of the fact that, A, he had a couple injuries lately, which caused him to have a couple of fights that were scrapped, but the main reason, everyone is too afraid to fight him. No exaggeration. He is so good on the ground that nobody wants to fight this guy.
I didn't know Dana White had optional contracts.
It's not really a matter of that. It's a matter of, usually you try to throw a guy's name out there and say, do you want to take this fight? Do you want to take this fight? And he'll give a couple people choices. People will always turn down Ryan Hall, and he's actually listed a bunch of fighters and podcasts that have ducked him for years, and the main reason why is because of the fact that he's not exactly a household name, but he's a third-degree Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, so he's one of the best submission guys on the planet, let alone in the UFC. And you're looking at the odds on this one. He is plus 192 on FanDuel. I don't get it. Now, you can look at the age difference. You can talk about ring rust, which Ryan Hall actually addressed in a press conference, and I thought he put it very, very just succinctly that he doesn't believe it's real. He thinks that ring rust is mental, and that if you just show up and put in the work every day, then you'll be able to do fine, and he's been doing the work. So Hall is a guy who I think has a massive submission advantage or ground game advantage in the spot, even though his opponent has 7 submission wins. Can I really say the guy in a matchup between 2 submission experts, the guy with the 3rd degree black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu should be plus 190? I don't get it. I'm going to take the value with Ryan Hall.
Okay. All right. Very good. That's you're kicking it off. You're kicking off our initial segment here with a big one, Scott, with a plus 190.
Hall by submission, though, plus 340.
I mean, it'd be really easy to sit there and go, I like Sean O'Malley. I think he's going to win.
What is he, minus 800?
He's minus 1,000.
Fantastic.
So yeah, that's no fun. There's no fun in that. We want to give you guys a chance to make some money. So
other than that, though, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that fight or you just think there's value on it, but plus 192 for a submission battle with the guy with the high pedigree, I got to go with him.
I don't even know how many degrees of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt there is, Scott. How many degrees are there?
He's 3 ahead of you.
Yeah. He's got a few belts and a few degrees on me. No question.
He also teaches. I think he teaches some classes when it comes to jiu-jitsu as well. So.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, but they're in advanced math, so that's weird.
Oh, that too. Okay, fair enough. Either way,
he does it. He's the master of the dojo, right? He has his own dojo.
I don't know if he has his own, but he's definitely one of the head instructors at a dojo.
Okay,
but anyway, other than that, though, staying on the prelim card, I'm looking at a matchup between Giles and Duplessis, and I like Duplessis here as a favorite at about minus 118. He's kind of a youngster. He had a lot of success in other organizations before coming over to the UFC. He is undefeated since coming over. A lot of stand-up talent, a lot of knockout power. And Giles is pretty good. I'm not going to tell you that he's not a good fighter because he is 14-2, but I'm looking at the guys he has actually faced off against, and I'm not exactly a fan of the level of competition. Now, you can make the same argument about Duplessis, but at the end of the day, I do think that at 27 years old, he's a dark horse candidate to maybe compete for a title in a couple of years or be a serious contender. I think it's a good step-up fight for him, and I do think that he will come through victoriously. I like Duplessis to get the job done, potentially by knockout, but Giles is tough. I'll go Duplessis, but if you want some extra value there besides just taking the money line, I'm looking at him by decision, and you can find that price at plus 440.
Wow. Very nice. And how many?
Plus 440, I think, has value to it.
How many decisions has he had in his career?
Not many.
Okay.
I'll tell you, I'm going to be straightforward with you. Not many. But if you're looking at his 17 fights, he has had 0.
He's due.
Absolutely 0. But
He's
Giles
due.
Giles has never been knocked out before, and he's pretty good on the ground.
Okay.
I think you might see this fight go the distance. Plus, it's only 3 rounds. So I think that there's a good chance that Giles will do enough to hold on, but lose in a decision. Plus 440, I think, is attractive.
He's going the distance. He's going for speed.
Mm-hmm. He has the need for speed.
I got the need for speed.
I'll watch that movie anytime it's on TV.
Top Gun?
Of course.
Good one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to say, is there a new one coming? A new Top Gun?
There's supposed to be where Tom Cruise is the instructor, but that got pushed back like a year and a half.
Topper Gun? Is that what they're going to call it?
Top Gun 2 Electric Boogaloo.
All right. Anything else before we get to Poirier McGregor?
Well, I'm going to transition over to the main card just because those are the 2 prelim fights that I like.
Okay.
Other than that, I'm looking at the what else do I like here? I'm looking at the Hardy Tuivasa fight. Now, Greg Hardy, of course, was the former football player who has been in the UFC for a couple of years. However, it has not fared too well for him, and you have seen him, well, let's put it this way, struggle against competent fighters. And Tuivasa
from the Panthers?
Yes, from the Panthers and the Cowboys briefly. But you're looking at Tuivasa here, and it's a battle between 2 heavyweights. They're going to swing. He has 11 wins, 10 by knockout for Tuivasa. His nickname is Bam Bam. Fantastic stuff. I think Tuivasa wins by knockout. I think that Hardy, who also has had issues with asthma in his life, I think could have some problems potentially the longer this fight goes, just based on conditioning. So I think Tuivasa is going to wear him down. I think Tuivasa eventually wins by knockout.
Take the over 1.5 there.
I think you can make an argument for it, but you might also make the argument that the longer this fight goes, the more likely Hardy is to get killed. So he might just go for broke in the first round. So I'm going to stay away from the actual round type of over-under stuff, but Tuivasa by knockout is plus 155. I think there's value on that.
Okay, very good.
And other than that, time for the main event.
Ding, ding, ding. It is Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor for the third time. Scott, how did the first two go? Remind everybody.
They split. They were about, I don't know, a decade and a half apart from each other, but they split.
Okay. McGregor won the first one.
Yes, McGregor won the first one, and Poirier won the most recent one.
Why would this one be any different, Scott? By the way, Poirier is a minus 130 favorite. Conor McGregor plus 110. 2.5 is the over-under there in the 5-round fight, heavily juiced to the under. So, is there any reason this fight goes differently than the last one?
The main reason why people will think that it'll go differently is if McGregor has any answer for the calf kicks, because the calf kicks absolutely torched him in the second fight. Now, McGregor did do well for the first 5 minutes, and then he got clipped. But the issue I have with McGregor is the fact that he's barely fought within the last, 5 years?
Right.
So the longer that the fight goes, do I trust McGregor's conditioning? No, because he has barely gotten out of the second round within the last handful of years. The Khabib fight went 4 rounds. He got mauled for all of them, but he ended up going 4 rounds there before submitting. And then after that, you fight against Poirier, and you get your head taken off in the second round. So I have to go with Poirier because I don't know if McGregor can last 25 minutes. I'm assuming no. So based on that,
not very many of us can last 25 minutes.
Wait, what? Okay, fair.
So not very many of us can last 25 minutes.
Okay, fair enough. But the point I'm trying to say, well played. The point I'm trying to say is that if I don't think McGregor can win if it goes past the second round, I can't pick him to win. So I'm going to go Poirier by knockout, plus 200. I think we would agree that you should see some hands flying. Out of anything, McGregor's the last person to shoot for a takedown unless he's desperate. He's not good on the ground at all. I think Poirier's going to take his head off. You?
Yeah, I'll just take him minus the 130. I'll lay the juice there, and that opens up the possibility that he submits McGregor because McGregor is so bad on the ground. So
that's fair too.
I think that's and maybe can you take Poirier under the distance?
Oh, you mean inside the distance?
Inside the distance, whatever. Yes.
Yes, you can, but I'm trying to see where exactly I'd find that on FanDuel. FanDuel might not actually have that, so hang on 1 second. Double chance. Okay, well, okay, I got it. Poirier to win by knockout or submissions plus 120.
Okay. Yeah.
I actually agree with you. I think that's actually the better play.
Yeah, because I'm and I agree with you that I don't think there's any way Conor McGregor goes 25 minutes.
I don't see it.
Nope, I don't see it. What is he now, Scott? 34, 36?
In fight years, he's definitely a lot older than that. But I'll find out McGregor's age right now. But either way, the point is people can talk about ring rust like Ryan Hall and how it maybe not be real. But when you're going up against a champion fighter who's been challenging himself nonstop and you take a hiatus to do whatever you're going to do for a couple of years and then come back, he's 32.
Okay.
But I just don't think the conditioning is going to be there for McGregor.
I agree. I totally agree. All right, Scott. Well, this is almost a new record for us, and this is the show we worried because we didn't have a lot of basketball to talk about. We didn't have any hockey to talk about. We worried that we weren't going to be able to fill the time, and now we have no time left for baseball.
Fantastic.
Well, another well-managed show. You're welcome, everybody.
Yep.
But, we wanted to talk about the UFC because this is the biggest UFC fight of the year so far.
Compared to the first McGregor-Poirier one, it's got to be up there.
Yeah, agreed. So, real quick, Scott, before we get to our bet the farm play, what do you like as far as baseball goes?
That's kind of why I like the fact we kept it short. I didn't really like much, but I'll go with the White Sox. Jorge Lopez 2-11. Keuchel has not been great, but the White Sox are just a much better team. I like the White Sox in that spot.
Yeah, I agree. Jorge Lopez lost 9 of his last 10. It's Brad Keller day, Scott. Time to fade bad Brad Keller. Tristan McKenzie, somebody I'm not thrilled with, but
I'll go with the over in that one.
that's a tempting play.
Both teams can hit, but the pitchers can't pitch.
Yeah, 9.5 is the number. Yeah, the Royals can randomly score runs. I know Tristan McKenzie did pretty well against him his first start, but I think you're getting a pretty good price there on the Cleveland Indians. So I like the over. I like the Indians as well. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. So you know what? Let's just get to it, Scott. I know everybody's waiting. Everybody's sitting by the edge of their radio. That's not a thing. Can you be by the edge of your radio, Scott?
Not anytime soon. Most people aren't running forward into the front of their car listening to the radio.
Scott, we didn't have a donkey of the day.
Yeah, we didn't. We didn't have anything to add. Drew Holiday, being bad at basketball.
All right, Scott, it is time for our finishing segment. This is the one spot of the show where you and I put our heads together and we come up with a consensus play. No more differences of opinion. We sort through all the data, look at everything, and we come up with one play that we like better than all the others. If you had to put all your chips in the middle on one play, you had to bet it all. This is it, Scott. Put on your straw hat, climb up on that tractor, baby. It is time for Bet the Farm.
So the Bet the Farm play is going to be on the Oakland Athletics on the money line at around -131, taking on the Texas Rangers. Oakland, obviously the much better team, 50-39, 23-17 on the road. Texas, 34-53, 21-23 at home. Cole Irvin on the mound for Oakland, been randomly good. 3.56 ERA, 1.21 whip, 2.55 ERA on the road. And we got our favorite fade from the last couple of years, Jordan Lyles on the mound for the Rangers. And he has a 4.98 ERA, 1.45 whip, and a 5.14 ERA at home. Oakland finally was able to beat the Astros yesterday. I think they'll ride the momentum. Texas, besides Gallo's, got nothing offensively, and I think Oakland should win this game going away.
All right, very good. So that is going to be our Bet the Farm play for this TGIF edition of Winners and Winers Radio. We have the Athletics on the money line. As always, shop your lines, but we've got it. The best price we found was -131. So lock that up. I don't think there's going to be a lot of Rangers money coming in, Scott.
I don't see it.
So whenever you hear this, if you can get anything close to that number, you should absolutely make that play. So, Scott, what are you most excited about this weekend? You most excited for the Sunday basketball game? You most excited for the Saturday fight card?
It's got to be MMA.
Or are you most excited for my birthday today on Friday?
I was going to wait until, well, another time before you didn't put me on the spot, but happy birthday to you.
Thanks, buddy. I noticed you weren't at my surprise party on Monday. What's up?
I couldn't get a plane ticket.
Very good. All right, guys. And that is a happy birthday to anybody else that shares my birthday besides OJ. It's also OJ's birthday. It's the same as mine. It used to be a big deal, and now I don't really talk about it.
I didn't know Orange Juice had a birthday.
Yeah, it does. So for myself, for Scott Reichel, for the whole team over here at winnersandwiners.com, we appreciate you guys listening. We appreciate you watching. Throw us a comment if you're watching this on the YouTube. And other than that, we wish you nothing but the best. Hope every one of those tickets in your pocket turns into cash money when you head back to the window. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll see you back here Monday on Winners and Winers Radio. Take care, everybody.